Alright guys, it's time for an AMD News Dump. Alright guys, I know a while back we discussed the possibility of AMD going to a multi-chip module design for their upcoming Navi architecture, but it looks like based on an interview over at PC Games In with the SVP of RTP, it's kind of fun to say, they will not be using a multi-core chip or a multi-chip module design. They will be instead using the traditional monolithic design. So one larger die rather than something that we talked about was a very strong possibility, something like what they use with Threadripper. So instead of one large die like Intel would use on their CPUs, AMD Threadripper has two, now they have four 8-core module setups on there, just like basically it's multiple Ryzen 8 CPUs on a package together to make a much larger, more powerful overall unit. So this was something that was rumored to have been coming to the Radeon scene, something that Raja Koduri wanted back when he was still with AMD. So probably was something later down the road maybe, because the roadmaps and product cycles for these things isn't exactly a 1 or 2 year process. These are long-term projects. So that is the news there. On to AMD Gaming. It looks like AMD is partnered up with 3 different studios on 3 major upcoming launches. So it looks like their gaming side of things is they're really pushing it. So it looks like they will be partnering with Capcom for the upcoming Resident Evil 2 title, which I for one am extremely excited about. Resident Evil 2 was one of my favorite Resident Evil games, and it was fun. And moving on to another one, they're partnering once again with Rebellion on Strange Brigade. They've got quite a history with Rebellion, of course, through history with the Sniper Elite series, and that's shown great performance for AMD, and it did perform well on NVIDIA cards. And probably the biggest upset of these titles is they're actually partnering with Ubisoft again. So we saw them partner with Ubisoft with Far Cry 5, and we saw some pretty good performance from that game, and it ran fairly well. Of course, there's debate on technical prowess of that game. You can find plenty of people complaining about that. But they're partnering with The Division 2. Now, we reported earlier that it looked like The Division 2 was going to be restricted to DirectX 12. You can see the card up in one of these corners if you want to see some more about that. So it's interesting to see AMD partnering with Ubisoft for The Division Part 2. Now on to the last and possibly semi-biggest news is we finally see a new GPU from AMD, but it's in the Pro segment, so it's not a regular consumer-grade GPU. We are, of course, talking about the Radeon Pro V340. Now, as far as specifications, this thing is touting hardware-enabled GPU virtualization with up to 32 concurrent users. Okay, that's cool. We're looking at H.265 support, H.264, VP9, and built-in security processors, which is something Vega features. Oh, speaking of which, there was no mention of the core name. However, 14 nanometer Vega really only supports up to 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's debatable, but this card's limit is showing 32 gigabytes, which is strangely similar to what Dr. Lisa Su showed off with the 7 nanometer Vega chip.
And we're going to have to hold up the video here for a second because we did believe that this was going to be a Vega 7 nanometer GPU part. Turns out it's not. It's actually a dual Vega 10. So there is still 32 gigs with 16 gigs on each GPU, but it is going to be consisting of 2 GPU cores. Well, I mean, I guess that's still good, just not quite as interesting as 7 nanometer Vega. And with that out of the way, let's continue.
So, really cool stuff to see there. Let us know what you have to say about any of these. Do you find the fact that they're going with the monolithic die interesting? How do you feel about the idea of the games that are being partnered with AMD Gaming, especially the Ubisoft title with The Division 2? And lastly, thoughts on Radeon Pro, Vega 7 nanometer, 32 gigabytes of HBM2? I mean, you're not going to be gaming with it, but it's kind of neat to see it. Unfortunately, maybe a while before we see it for gamers, if they see it at all. This has been Keith with WCCF Tech TV, and we hope to catch you in the next video.